released a new video. No more isekais. This genre will replace isekais. I'm kind of interested because isekais have been nowadays like so mainstream. I wonder what will even replace it.
Guys, I think I'm done with Isekai. At this point, I've seen it all. Isekai with power fantasies, economics, politics, using swords, smartphones, where the protagonist is reincarnated as a slime, vending machine, even a goddamn hot spring. For the long
Yeah, it's kind of overdone. You see too much. Like they do everything regarding this. Just way too much.
this time, Isekai was just my comfort food. Something I could just turn my brain off and enjoy while using as few neurons as possible. Yeah, I knew it was unhealthy junk food, but sometimes you just...
Isekai goes a bit stale. Fantasy pretty good. Isn't it funny how it like turned around? Like they started with fantasy and now then it became isekais. And now isekais are getting stale, so we're going back to fantasy. It's a good one.
want to indulge in something that feels familiar, but eventually I've come to realize that as good as it tastes, eating too much McDonald's is detrimental to my health. So anyway, I started eating KFC. Regression is a very popular genre in Korean manhwa, and it's the latest landfill dumpster rabbit hole I have once again fallen into. The genre is to manhwa what isekai is to anime and manga, and is about as equally detrimental to my health. Now, if you don't know what manhwa is, well, it's kinda like manga, except
it's Korean.
It's spelled like this. And it comes from Korea. And a lot of it is way worse than what you can find in manga.
Look at this dude.
But
what a beautiful man.
Last point doesn't matter as much. Trashy power fantasy stories where the main character becomes OP for some contrived reason that I just can't help myself from consuming. Hi, my name's Gigguk, and I have an addiction. This is a genre that hits all the same notes that got me addicted to isekai in the first place, while feeling just different enough that it still feels fresh. Or, in other words, it might not be your OP protagonist in a fantasy world isekai story, but you know what? It sure does smell awfully familiar. So, if you continually question your life choices like I do, but want something a little different,
yeah, it does. A lot of it looks like some of it looks very funny.
Truck, allow me to
very silly.
Regression. Because if you think your isekai brain rot was as bad as it could get, allow me to show you that your dedication to trashy stories can go beyond a single genre.
And I think we're gonna see more of it. Like you had like Solo Leveling recently. I think we're gonna see more of it. The problem is that it's very hard for them. Like most of the studio animating this is from Japan, right? Like Korea doesn't really animate too many animes at all. So all of this has to go through Japan. And it's their backlog on animes are insane. But we're gonna eventually see more manhwa.
Medium, and now beyond a single nation. But first, ad time. Before we continue, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Asus ROG.
Asus, I love Asus. For gamers, I use Asus for nearly everything.
Back to whatever I'm talking about. All right, first off, what the hell is regression? Imagine a trope that feels awfully similar to what you get to see in isekai, but instead of seeing someone getting transported to another world and living their fantasy there, the protagonist gets transported back in time to an earlier point in their lives with all the knowledge of future events intact. Sometimes
just time travel, yeah.
Sometimes they can regress back as many times as they want with certain conditions. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because, well, it's not exactly a concept we haven't seen before. Tokyo Revengers and Erased are basically a story about two different regressors, and hell, ReZero and Summertime Render's time loop is essentially just a regression mechanic. But now, we're just setting the bar too high. The big difference is a lot of regression manhwa tend to focus on the protagonist using their knowledge of the future as a sort of new game plus approach to their lives. Some use their knowledge to correct past mistakes in their lives or get a revenge of some sort. Most others use it to become really OP in whatever world they're in. Probably a fantasy world with video game elements. Like I said.
So in the end of the day, it's just like it's like a cheeseburger, but you use French mayo instead of like a different mayo. Not what French mayo. What was that? French mustard. You use French mustard instead of like a different mustard, because in the end of the day, you have the same product. It's just about like, yeah, the principle. The start of it is like this.
Smell.
Okay.
So in that case, the first anime title that comes to mind is
wow. I heard about this one. Isn't this like a porn? I heard this was a hentai. Is it not? Like I've heard about it. I don't know what the hell it is though.
Oh.
It's bad in my opinion.
Look good for me
I don't even know what it's about.
But like isekai, there are a lot of regression titles out there. Some are the same copy-paste titles you've seen a million times before. Some actually use the core concept in different ways. So with more manhwa not only getting adaptations, but becoming some of the most popular anime of the season, and some actual regression manhwa adaptations starting to sneak in through the cracks, like A Returner's Magic Should Be Special, I think this is a genre we are only going to see more of in the future. All right, you've piqued my curiosity. So where do I start? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. The original plan was that I was gonna run through a bunch of titles, then I realized halfway through writing about the 10th regression with a fantasy backdrop, video game-esque abilities, a dungeon crawling structure with a big mysterious tower to climb, my fucking mind was starting to regress back to PPP age. So instead, what I'm gonna do is just speed run through some titles in different categories and focus on a few that really stood out to me. This way, I could show you some of my favorites and prove that not every regression manhwa is a fantasy series where the main character can regress and get super OP because of it. So, let's start with fantasy manhwa where the main character can regress and get super OP because of it. Look, it wouldn't be a proper introduction without starting off with a series like this, okay? Like looking at Isekai and seeing the same copy and paste Sword Art Online clones, going through manhwa can feel like reading 1,000 different iterations of solo leveling, except hey, this time the main character can also regress. Leveling with the gods is essentially just that exactly, but is one I actually think was executed half decently. The Sword Master's son shows the rise of the youngest son in a family that's the equivalent of the Sword Master.
It kind of look like exactly the same thing. Like, this kind of looks exactly the same thing, like solo leveling, all of them.
A version of the Zoldyck family. Kill the Hero details a good old revenge story where the protagonist levels up to kill the hero that originally killed him. Doombreaker, Volcanic Age, Infinite Level Up in Murim. If I were to continue, we'd be sitting here to the end of One Piece. So the series I actually want to talk about is SSS Class Revival Hunter. Not to be confused with my S-Class Hunters, the SSS rank Hunters Lucky Draw, Civil Servant Hunters S-Class.
Who decided this is a good idea for a naming?
Confused with SSS Class Suicide Hunter, which is the other name for the
series.
Bro,
who sits down and think, yeah, man, my story is gonna called SSS Class Suicide Hunter. Like, what? Like a game tag whenever you're like 7.
We're off to a fucking great start. Honestly, after seeing this title,
MCs even look the same. They do. They look identical.
Over 10 neurons would hamper my enjoyment of it. But lo and behold, this had some of the most fantastic
art style is identical.
Find in the genre.
MCs identical.
Shocker, because this is like having a light novel titled "Reborn as the Weakest Mage that became the strongest dickhead thanks to his cheat skill in another world," and it turning out to be the Citizen Kane of Isekai. After a mysterious tower appears and people from all over the world gather to enter it, and yada yada yada, you know how it goes. There are monsters on every floor. People get special skills when they enter, and anyone who tries to climb the floors and hunt the monsters are called hunters, like the Flame Emperor, the top rank.
What is this?
He has wealth, fame,
Sword Art Online?
Shit they say in the One Piece opening. Women want to be with him. Guys want to be him, which is exactly how our protagonist Gongja feels.
Why doesn't Guy want to be with him?
Whose only SSS class ability seems to be shitposting. He just like me for real. Out of nowhere though, the power grants him his first S-ranked ability, a power that allows him to copy any skill other people have. The catch? He can only copy the skills of anyone who kills him. And, oh, it only activates after he's already dead. Dejected at gaining a skill
how does that work?
Able to use, he accidentally runs into the Flame Emperor and finds out that in person he is, how do I say this? A bit of a shit cunt. Gongja gets senselessly murdered by the dude, but as it turns out, the Flame Emperor has a skill that allows him to travel back in time exactly 24 hours every time he dies, which is the exact skill he needs not only to prevent his own death, but also make use of the one skill he has. Oh wow, would you look at that? What a coincidence. Who could have guessed this could
wow.
After waking up with his newfound powers, he decides to take revenge, so he travels back in time to a point before the Flame Emperor awoke his powers by offing himself 4,090 times. Yes, you heard that right. 4,090 times. This motherfucker unalived himself so much, he might as well change his pronouns to was/were. But after taking revenge, the real meat of the story comes when he uses his newfound ability to climb floors, become one of the most respected hunters in the land, and uncover the secrets behind this mysterious tower. Alright, I'm gonna be real here. I know the plot synopsis makes this sound like the most generic, trashy regression manhwa you can find, because it absolutely is. At the beginning. But as you continue, you come to realize that this is not the generic trashy show you expected it to be. With a lot of these dungeon crawling manhwa, the formula is pretty set in stone. You go up floors, everyone
I've noticed a thing. Like, I feel like you see more goblins nowadays in anime and manga. Like, ever since Goblin Slayer. Like, I feel like you used to see goblins from time to time, but now you see it like all the time.
Is a progressively more powerful monster. Everyone wonders how the hell we're going to defeat it. Main character swoops in, saves the day, powers up. Hey, it worked for solo leveling. It can work.
I think you're just noticing them more. Do you feel like they were often like? Do you think like goblins were the most common enemy in every anime before? Because I don't know. Like, I feel like it wasn't the case before with fantasy. I don't think you would always see a goblin as the most baseline enemy, but whenever you look at thing nowadays, it's always the first baseline enemy.
right? But what sets Revival Hunter apart is the level of world building and different clear conditions when it comes to every floor. Instead of feeling like a dungeon, each floor is more akin to a different world with its own people, conflict, and hardships. Every stage is so thematically different and presents a different philosophy
I like that. What the hell was that?
and he never comes out the same person as when he entered. On the surface, it seems obvious what needs to be done to clear each floor, but as you dig deeper in each world, you realize there is far more going on underneath. This is honestly more reminiscent to seeing Luffy travel to different islands and resolving the different conflicts he encounters. But where the regression comes in is seeing Gongja's unwavering commitment to giving each world the one thing he thinks every place deserves: a happy ending. And to do that, he will retry the floor as many times as he needs to get the conclusion he wants. While Subaru is out here learning in Season 2 that maybe he shouldn't be relying on his return by death ability so much, Gongja saw one low-tier god video and thought it was a Mr. Beast challenge. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times optimizing every little path, getting a better understanding of every single person, spending more time to truly empathize with the struggles of every floor before coming up with his own resolution. It's never about beating the final boss, it's about giving the characters in the world the closure they need, no matter how much suffering it takes to get there. If you have enough patience to get to floor 21, or the mirror mark of this story, you'll be able to see what makes this series special. This is where the series truly comes into its own, with some of the most beautiful storytelling I've seen in this genre. Normally with these videos, I like to save the best till last, but I'll just go out and say that this was my favorite regression manhwa I've ended up reading so far. I came in looking for trash and I somehow ended up finding gold, so if you're thinking about trying any of the titles I just mentioned, this should be it.
I don't know. That still sounded shit to me. I don't know. Like, what do y'all think? Do you think that sounded good? Because that kind of sounded like a little bit boring to me. Maybe I don't really like the regression path that much. I feel like the idea of a character being always able to, this character has 0 lose conditions. Like, this character, even if he loses, he just rests up. I do like overpowered character, but it's just the fact that that they can rest, copy, do whatever they want. It's just like, okay, all right. Well, so what's the point of it? So the point of it is that I have to now emotionally have a feeling for every individual new plot character that we see in every new short. Okay, but that sounds boring. Like, why the attachment I'll have for all of these small characters that I see in every chapter is just not going to be the same as the way I would feel if I went through a story with somebody for a long duration of time. Time travel has to have some serious disadvantages, or any OP power. It's just boring then. Yeah, it is. I don't know. This is not
Gigguk,
good for me.
We were trying to get off Isekai. What if I don't want another fantasy show with video game mechanics? Isn't there anything more realistic? I mean, sure, let's be real here. The first thing I'd do if I was able to regress back with my knowledge intact is maybe buy a Bitcoin, invest in some Apple stocks. Tell Justin Wong, don't do it! He's capable of parrying the super! Well, don't worry, there's a manhwa for that. Except the Justin Wong thing, that was a joke. I would never deprive gamers of the greatest moment in esports history. Past Life Returner is there if you want a series about a guy regressing back and getting rich through hedge funds and financial investments. Medical Return takes the regression formula and puts it into a medical drama, with a doctor regressing back to fast track his medical career while making every other doctor look like a dumbass. To Be an Actor does this even better in my opinion, except with a successful actor rising up even faster to stardom again if that one arc in Oshinoko wasn't enough to get your fix. But for a grounded regression drama, I very much enjoyed A Man's Man. Samsung, Hansung, one of the biggest technology companies in Korea, has just appointed their youngest ever CEO, Yoo Yeon-hung. He has it all. Power, fame, fortune, and all that shit they say in the One Piece. Except one problem. No one he cares about gives a shit. Hated by almost everyone he's worked with after he's betrayed and backstabbed his way to the top, his wife leaves him on the day of his promotion, and to top it all off, he finds out that one of his closest ex-co-workers has just committed Jump King. So is there really anything to celebrate about? Alone and despised, he turns to his last remaining friend. A good old bottle of Jack, baby.
That's what we're talking about, baby.
Betray me.
Hell yeah.
If it does. And he dies. Corporate drama with a regression twist, and while you might be able to guess how this all plays out, the first thing that stood out to me about A Man's Man is
everybody loves him, his friend doesn't kill himself, and he becomes the CEO anyways, and he makes a lot of money, and his wife gets 20 beautiful children.
just exactly what the protagonist's regression abilities are used for. Of course, with the company's future CEO with all the knowledge he has, starting from ground zero again, you know what to expect. He's gonna climb the ladder even faster, play the company politics perfectly to a T, expose all the people who were a thorn in the time he was there, and everyone around him is left dick in hand wondering how the hell a young upstart can play the corporate game so well. But while many regression manhwa focus solely on the protagonist finding success in whatever field they're in, Yu Yon's energy is put into making sure his entire team finds success and rising up together. He makes sure his co-workers are equally seen,
starting to see a
ensures that the
pattern.
actual people doing the hard work are the ones that get the recognition and not the loudmouth bosses standing
I'm
above.
starting to see a pattern. It's more about like helping the people around you instead of yourself all the time. Like that's what I'm starting to see with all of these shows.
Them. This isn't a story about a man who gained success. This is a story of a man who already found success but regrets the way he got there. In a sense, there wasn't a single person responsible for the thorny path he took in his first life.
Also more interesting. I kind of agree.
Of the highly toxic work culture that the company had fostered for itself, and it's that culture that Yu Yon is really fighting against, not by completely destroying the company, but changing it from within. Yes, this is a power fantasy, but it is a power fantasy for anyone who's ever worked in a big corporation where you feel absolutely insignificant and sometimes daydream to yourself, fuck me, if I was in charge, I'd be able to get rid of all these rotten parts I have to deal with on a daily basis, humble some of these overconfident, useless managers who don't seem to do anything, and actually run a tight ship. Put that in a setting of working in a massive electronics company with their team specializing in working for developing screens for electronic devices, right before the era where some fruit company announces this phone that you can control purely through touch, and that probably won't be relevant or anything, and you got yourself a pretty fun read. But sometimes, after reading a bunch of manhwa, you encounter a title that doesn't really belong in any category you usually see, but still goes bloody hard, like the next series, Chosu Saves the World. What would you do if you knew the end of the world was coming? Would you let it happen, make the most of the time you have left and live your best life, or would you do everything in your power?
What would if you knew a meteorite was about to hit Earth and blow the whole thing up? What could you do? Like, what do you think? You think humans can counter a meteorite? I don't know about that.
To prevent it. On Earth's final day, Chosu bears witness to a giant asteroid plummeting towards
there you have it.
Planet. Scientific organizations detected the massive rock far too late and miscalculated it to be a near miss. All attempts to destroy or divert the thing have failed. As just a normal Korean office worker, Chosu, like many other people, was completely powerless to stop this fate. And all he can do is crack open one last cold one and give one final toast as he watches the world come to an end. Oh
my god.
But we all know this is a regression story where the end is just the beginning of the end. Again, Chosu wakes up decades earlier as a kid. No mentions of any asteroid, no one panicking at the end of the world, just one lone boy armed with Windows 2000 or Microsoft Windows 2000? Oh, we're doomed.
So you have people that have been working on this because everybody know this can be a situation happening on the planet. We have multiple geniuses. You have geniuses all around the world trying to figure out defense mechanism to prevent this to ever happen, because this can randomly occur. That's why you have NASA always taking a look at everything going around in the close and within our orbit. One dude just going back 20 years ain't doing shit. All right, he's not gonna figure it out.
Knowledge alone of Earth's inevitable fate.
It's the same thing for everybody else.
Looks up to the sky and goes, "Oh, that asteroid's going down. I don't want to close my eyes. I wish it was that epic." Chosu saves the world, takes the Summertime Render approach. He tries to save the world, fails, and every time he does, he wakes up 3 months past where he woke up on his previous attempt. But unlike Summertime Render, each loop is not days or weeks, but are decade-long attempts to explore the question of, is it realistically possible for a single person to save the world? Which, if you think about it, is pretty damn difficult. You might know an asteroid is coming to hit Earth, but what the fuck can you do? You're the only one who does, and you're just a bloody...
And yet, when I heard expert talk about it, there is still a slim chance we can can't detect it. I think we can really detect it very easily, right? So yeah.
Kid, the rest
It's
of the kids
scary,
around
it
you have
is.
just graduated from
But
shitting
don't worry
their
about
pants
it.
phase to
We can't do
eating
anything
boogers
about it. Don't
phase.
worry about
Even
it.
if you have decades, what is the right approach to take to correct the course of history? Let's say you want to warn NASA super early that there's an asteroid coming. Well, you're just a fucking nobody who sounds like your run-of-the-mill crazy person who watched 2012 once and thought it was a documentary. Plus, they've already detected it before and thought it was going to be a near miss, remember? Do you really think they're going to take your word over their own scientific minds? Tough luck, kid. Go back to shitting your pants. Alright, well, I have decades, so how about I study astronomy and get myself into a position where I can develop anti-asteroid technology as early as possible so we'll be ready when that asteroid gets detected. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. But this raises a different issue. How do you get into a position influential enough where you can do such a thing? Where the hell are you going to get funding to pursue a project that will seem totally irrelevant until it's too late? Shall I hit up Daddy Elon to pump all his money into this instead of buying some bird website? Maybe I can convince coffee enthusiasts to use a percentage of their enthusiasm for developing a better cup of coffee into developing tech that could save humanity. And brew a cup of coffee. Loop after loop. Layers.
The thing is that whenever you think about it, there's always a lot of people that have an interest in every other thing that exists in this world. So whenever it comes to the small object of doing this and that, let's make this and that, there are already a bunch of people super inspired and super talented within the topic trying to work around it and figure out things. So it's just like there's like when it comes to coffee, there's always thousands of people trying to figure out the next way to make a coffee.
Added to the plan, more problems arise that need to be overcome. Time gets wasted specking into the wrong tech tree. Maybe you find out that a solution is theoretically possible, but you need to influence the technology infrastructure first to make it viable. This hits a grounded sci-fi drama itch I haven't felt since watching The Martian. Add in Armageddon with a little sprinkle of Steins Gate, and you have a title I finished in a single night. If you can keep your suspension of disbelief in check, especially in season 2, and buy into this fact that every single influential person humanity ever needed is conveniently placed in this one school, then for the most part, this was an absolutely gripping and grounded exploration of what could happen if we needed to advance our space exploration infrastructure, especially when real-life proposed solutions I could find for stopping an asteroid go something like,
how about this? The laser bees.
oh, what's this? An asteroid is on its way to destroy all life on Earth. Send out the laser bees! That pretty much sums up my introduction to regression manhwa. There is one more title I was planning to talk about that's not technically regression, but definitely takes the core appeal and spins it into its own unique thing that I feel has the potential to be the next big thing after Solo Leveling, but, you know, I think that deserves a video on its own. So, until then, I'm going to take a break from my Isekai and regression brain rot for real this time, and start diving into some good, critically acclaimed anime again. What's this?
I want to watch this one on Discord one day. I want to watch this one. We need to do a movie night one day and watch this. I've been thinking about it for a while, actually.
Critically acclaimed anime again. What's this? Cultivation manhwa from China?
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't know.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you very much this month too. Author Curtis Eckstein.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's really that much for me. Like, after you explained a lot of these stories and stuff, like, I don't think it's that much for me. But I'm happy a lot of people enjoyed there, and there's new like genres to focus on. I did enjoy Solo Leveling though. That was a very fun one. I enjoyed watching the anime. I haven't watched all of it, but I watched a couple video like episodes. But overall, like, this is probably not for me. But I'm glad there is more options out there. You know what I mean? I'm happy they keep on innovating and trying to figure out new ideas and new plot lines to entertain people overall. But yeah, it was a pretty good video. Very, very good video. I very much enjoyed that.